Homemade macarons don't have to be perfect, because if they were, they wouldn't have a beautiful little homely charm. Hi there guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a really easy, simple recipe for macarons. I mean, let's face it, it's not the easiest cookie to bake, but let's have a go. So into a food processor, let's go with 90 grams of ground almonds, and then we're going to top that with 130 grams of icing sugar. We're putting it into a food processor to grind the flour and the sugar really fine. This is going to make sure the macarons are as smooth as possible, and to try and achieve that nice shiny shell that they have. Give it a good blitz for a couple of minutes, but don't go too far because you don't want to be turning it into butter. Then we're going to magically swap our food processor for a mixer, and into that we're going to deposit 3 egg whites. And then we're just going to give that a little mix around until we start to form some nice soft peaks, something like this. So then we can set the mixer going again, and we're very slowly going to add 40 grams of sugar. You're adding the sugar now while you've got soft peaks so that it doesn't deflate the eggs. Just keep mixing it until all the sugar's incorporated, and then we're going to add a touch of salt. This will really bring out the flavour later on, and then keep mixing it until you form really stiff peaks, something like this. You can also test it by tipping it upside down and see if it falls out, and if you're really trusting, put it over your head. If you don't end up with a meringue hat, it's ready. But here comes the tricky bit. We're going to sift the almond flour mixture into the top of the meringue, and then we're going to start folding it in. A lot of people say you need exactly 52 folds, but you don't. Just make sure you fold it until when you circle the mixture backwards and forwards, it can make a full figure of 8. When you fold in the mixture will actually feel really dry, but just keep folding it in and all of a sudden it'll become really wet. But you don't want to go too far. As soon as you have that figure of 8, stop. Sorry for the camera as well, it's a little bit out of focus on this show. That's what you get when you're a one-man cooking show. We're not making perfect macarons here, so just try and get something a little bit like this. So I put lemon extract in and yellow food colouring in. But you want to use the paste colouring. Don't use the liquid colouring that I did, this will ruin the consistency. But you know, you learn from your mistakes. But once you got your colouring in, fold it a few more times, but try not to go too far because literally the consistency will change really fast. And once you got the colour you want, transfer it into a piping bag. I put it in a little jug first, you know, just to help prop it up while you fill it. Just a little extra tip there. And then get yourself a baking tray, grease up the bottom, and make sure you place the paper on the top nice and flat. Make sure the paper's actually stuck to the tray because you don't want it flapping about in the oven because that's going to really ruin our non-perfect macarons. And then you can actually buy these little mats that have little rings on that will show you exactly the right size to make macarons, but we're not going to do that because, well, they're not perfect. So just start piping them onto the paper and give it a little flick at the end to give it like a little nipple, and they actually are called macaron nipples. I'm not being crude, but as you can tell, I'm no macaron baker. This is one of my first goes at trying this, and you know, I think I did a pretty good job. Then once they're ready, you want to give them a little tap to try and get rid of all the air bubbles underneath. Then if you see any more air bubbles floating to the top, just get yourself a little stick or whatever you want to use and just pop them. Before we leave them for 30 minutes, you need to leave them for 30 minutes to let them dry out so you get this nice shiny shell on the top. This could take longer depending on the humidity of the place you live, but you don't want to stick them in the oven until you can run your finger over the top without them sticking. And then we're going to stick them in the oven, 160, no fan. And we're going to cook these for about 18 to 20 minutes until you see them rise and form them little feet on the bottom. They're actually called macaron feet, just like this. And they're not perfect because we're not making perfect macarons. These are homemade macarons with love. So we're going to let them cool down for a bit first, and then gently peel them off the paper and lay them upside down. And then using a beautiful lemon curd that I made earlier, and if you want to know how to make this, it's in my lemon meringue video, we're going to pipe a good dollop on the inside of each one. And then we're going to fasten them together. And just look at that, it's a perfectly imperfect homemade macaron. You're not going to get anything more imperfectly perfect than this perfectly imperfect macaron. Well, if you like this video, feel perfectly free to hit the like button, or subscribe, or both. I'll see you in the next one, and remember to just keep cooking.